There's a stark contrast between free speech and reckless stupidity. One fuels a nation with inspiration, while the other, it gets Teslas set on fire. Pam Bondi didn't declare it into a microphone, didn't announce it for cameras or reporters to jot down. No, she muttered it under her breath, half to herself, half to the frazzled aide juggling a stack of briefing folders beside her. But in the hushed, marble-lined corridors of the Rayburn House office building, even a whisper could carry. And this one did. Loud and clear. 7:42 a.m. Washington time. The city was already thick with something far more volatile than humidity. Politics. Outside, a steady spring drizzle painted the Capitol dome in muted silver, the sky brooding in a shade of steel gray. Raindrops tapped impatiently against the glossy black SUVs idling by the curb, where clusters of reporters stood poised, cameras up, ears sharp, breaths held. They weren't just waiting for another committee hearing.
No.
This one had teeth. Inside room 2141, the air crackled with tension. A sea of dark suits, overstuffed folders smudged with coffee stains, murmured whispers, and sharp glances filled the chamber. Staffers moved with purpose, but kept their voices low. Every seat
Taken.
every notepad open, every camera already blinking red. Then she entered. Pam Bondi walked in like she owned the very air they were breathing. A tailored suit sharper than a scalpel, a gaze like forged steel, and a posture that reminded everyone. This was not a woman to be tested. No hesitation. No pleasantries. No small talk. She moved with quiet authority, sat down, adjusted her microphone, and let her eyes sweep the room, dissecting each face like a seasoned prosecutor mentally building her case. And then, gavel. This hearing of the House Oversight Subcommittee on Public Safety and Constitutional Accountability will come to order. Her voice was smooth, controlled, but beneath the surface, a blade. Today's topic is not about party lines. It is not theoretical. And it is absolutely, unequivocally not optional. She let that sink in. We are here to examine the thin but crucial boundary between free speech and incitement, between civic responsibility and reckless, dangerous rhetoric. Then, she turned her head directly toward the press table. And yes, we will confront the consequences of what happens when a sitting member of Congress stands before an audience and says, and I quote, "All I want for my birthday is for Elon Musk to be taken down." The chamber stirred. Not loud. Just enough to ripple. Bondi leaned forward ever so slightly. Her gaze sharpened, and suddenly, the temperature in the room seemed to drop a few degrees. Let me be absolutely clear. When words lead to action, when slogans turn into fuel, this body does not, will not, look away. Her fingers brushed a crisp document, then slowly lifted a printed image. She held it up. The room fell silent. Across the glossy paper, in thick, red spray paint scrawled across the glass of a Tesla showroom in Chicago, were just 3 words. Burn Elon. She flipped it over. Date, March 29th. That also happens to be her birthday, Bondi remarked, voice devoid of emotion. The pause stretched. Surgical. Then, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett will have the opportunity to explain herself. And we will have the opportunity to ask a very simple question. Does intent even matter when the consequences are already burning in the streets? A flicker of movement at the back of the room. Late arrival. Dark sunglasses. A flash of red lipstick. She was here. Jasmine Crockett entered without a word. No hesitation, no glance in Bondi's direction. She simply strode to her seat and sat down, poised, composed, prepared. Bondi didn't look.
She didn't need to.
Instead, she calmly straightened her notes, tapped her microphone, and leaned in. The American people deserve clarity. They deserve accountability. And as of today, they're going to get both. The chamber lights dimmed slightly. A large screen flickered to life. And there she was, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, on stage, microphone in hand. The footage was clear, live, unfiltered, real. The crowd before her was loud, electric, hanging on every word. And she was loving it. "I won't hold y'all too long, 'cause I know politicians make people sleepy," she teased, earning an easy laugh. Then her smile widened. "But I'm really here for selfish reasons." Bondi didn't blink. "Starting with March 29th, my birthday." And then she leaned into the mic, her voice rising just enough to carry over the noise. "And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down." The chamber froze. The screen?
Black.
Silence. Bondi finally turned her gaze to the woman now seated across the room, microphone before her.
Calm.
Collected. But her left hand, her thumb grazed the underside of her ring finger. A tell. Bondi's voice was quiet, but cold as ice. "Congresswoman Crockett, would you care to clarify, for the record, what exactly you meant by taken down? Because, at the time of your remarks, Teslas were being set on fire in at least 3 cities. One of them had Happy Birthday spray-painted across the side of a burned-out Model Y." A stifled cough from the press section. Pens scribbling furiously. Crockett adjusted her mic, nodded once, then leaned forward. That signature blend of charm and defiance. "Madam Attorney General, with all due respect," a tight smile. "When I said take him down, I was talking about economics. Money. Accountability. You know, the kind that actually hurts." A slight turn toward the cameras. Voice rising. "I was not, and I repeat, not calling for violence. I was talking about holding billionaires accountable through legal means, through boycotts, through oversight." Then, a deliberate pause. "Unless, of course, you think criticizing the rich is a form of terrorism now." The room tensed. Bondi didn't flinch. She tapped the desk once. A single, measured beat. Tick. Her tone didn't change. "You know, Congresswoman," Bondi mused, voice deceptively even. "Perhaps, in a vacuum, your comment wouldn't raise eyebrows. But here's the thing." She slid another glossy photograph across the table. The clerk held it up. The screen lit up again. A Tesla showroom in San Francisco. Shattered glass. Spray-painted across the door in thick, black letters. March 29th. Take him down. Pam Bondi spoke again, her voice quiet, measured, deliberate. "You are not a podcaster. You are not an influencer. You are a sitting member of the United States Congress." She leaned forward slightly, her gaze fixed and unwavering. Her tone never wavered. "And you chose those words in a political climate where accountability, for some, means a gas can and a Zippo." Crockett parted her lips, ready to respond. Bondi cut in. "So, if you're now insisting this was all just symbolic, then let me ask you something, plainly, directly." A pause, razor sharp. "What exactly did you think would happen when your supporters heard that line?" Bondi let the question hang in the air, like smoke, like a spark waiting for kindling. "On your birthday, in the middle of a week when Tesla was already under siege." Silence. Not awkward, not uncertain, just heavy. Bondi didn't rush to fill it. She let it settle, let it do the work for her. Then calmly, precisely, "Because, Congresswoman, there are only 2 possibilities here. Either you don't understand the weight of your words, or you do."
She let that land.
"And frankly, I haven't decided which is worse." Crockett's eyes flicked, first to her aide, then back to Bondi. Her usual spark? It faltered. Just slightly. Outside, the rain had stopped. But inside room 2141, the storm had only just begun. Pam Bondi raised a hand, not to silence the room, not to demand attention, but to summon something new onto the screen. The monitors flickered. A Tesla Model S, engulfed in flames. Not a news clip, not a stock photo, a real surveillance still. Downtown Portland, March 29th, 2:14 a.m. Scrawled in angry, fluorescent spray paint across the charred metal. "Down with Musk." Bondi didn't narrate it. She didn't have to. The image spoke louder than any statement Crockett had given so far. Bondi turned, slowly, deliberately, until she was facing Crockett directly. Her expression was neutral. Her mouth curved into something that, Asterisk asterisk if you didn't know better. Asterisk asterisk might have been mistaken for a smile. It wasn't. Congresswoman, do you recall what I said at the beginning of this hearing? Crockett adjusted her mic, but she didn't speak. Bondi tilted her head slightly. That this body does not deal in abstraction. A pause. And yet, here we are, with cars being incinerated like we're filming a sequel to The Purge, and you're telling us it was all just a metaphor? Bondi leaned in. Do you honestly believe that being a member of Congress comes with a disclaimer? That you get to talk like an arsonist, but be interpreted like a TikTok comedian? That your words come preloaded with irony and emojis? Crockett exhaled sharply. Asterisk, I clarified my remarks afterward. Publicly. I made it crystal clear that I was referring to asterisk economic consequences. Legal. Non-violent. Bondi chuckled. Just once.
Dry.
Humorless. Oh, I'm sure your clarification was deeply appreciated by the PR firm that drafted it. She tapped the folder in front of her. But here's the problem, Congresswoman. Gasoline doesn't read captions. A small ripple of laughter. Quickly stifled. Bondi didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Neither do Molotov cocktails. She lifted the photo again, held it up for the room to see. You can post as many disclaimers as you like, but let me tell you something about how this works in the real world. She tapped the image. When a car explodes, no one scrolls down to read the fine print. No one checks for footnotes or legal context. They remember the first line. She tapped it again. The headline. The soundbite. Crockett shifted in her seat, visibly irritated. So now I'm personally responsible for criminal acts I never called for? Bondi's expression didn't change. I'm saying this. She folded her hands. When the house burns down, people don't care whether the match was symbolic. No silence. Not a pause. Just pure, unshakable weight. Bondi sat back. If you speak like an arsonist and dance around the fire afterward, don't act surprised when someone hands you a fire extinguisher. Asterisk asterisk. A pause. Or a subpoena. No applause. This wasn't cable news. But every camera in the room zoomed in. The reckoning wasn't loud. It was precise. Bondi let her pen fall onto the desk. The sound?
Soft.
But crisp enough to cut through the murmurs like a switchblade. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't lean in. She just looked at Crockett.
Calm. Composed.
Razor sharp. Congresswoman Crockett, she paused, tone surgical. You might want to watch your mouth. No theatrics. No exaggeration. Just that. Delivered like a legal diagnosis.
Deadpan.
Fatal. There it was. The line that would crawl across the news ticker on 5 networks by sundown. Crockett blinked. Shifted in her seat. A half scoff. A half smile. Are we seriously doing this over a birthday comment? Bondi folded her hands. Elbows steady. Voice steady. Ma'am, this isn't about your birthday. Her words were measured. Lethal. It's about the fact that words, when spoken by a United States Congresswoman, aren't confetti. She let that settle. They're loaded. Another pause. And when they spark real-world acts of destruction, when those acts come dressed in your rhetoric. She let it land. Then yes, Congress takes notice. She tilted her head slightly. So, does the Department of Justice. A flicker of motion. Eyebrows raised. A cough from the media row. One reporter typed faster. Bondi continued, voice like dry ice. Now, I'm not saying you intended to incite violence. A pause. I'm saying that if this pattern continues, if inflammatory language keeps correlating with violent outbursts, then we may no longer have the luxury of assuming you didn't. Crockett exhaled. So now you're threatening to prosecute people for speaking passionately? Bondi cracked a faint grin. Half civil, half predator. Oh no, Congresswoman. A pause. You can speak passionately. By all means, fight the power. A beat. Just don't be surprised when the power fights back. She let that sink in, especially when your speeches start showing up in evidence logs. A hush. The kind of quiet where even the air feels like it's listening. Bondi tapped her fingers. Once. Slow. Deliberate. Because if we have to open a formal inquiry into whether your words were knowingly fueling political violence. She let her lips curve. We will.